sound, that diminished sound is really, really cool. That is diminished, and it's super, super beautiful. It sounds so good. And I think we know it from a lot of like heavy kind of classical craziness, but also it's applicable to pop songs, to rock, to anything, and it's gonna spice up your life. So let's check it out. All right, but now how do we use it? We're gonna talk about 5 elements of how to utilize this sound, this beautiful hunting sound. 1, listen to it. What does it actually make you feel? So when I'm trying to learn a new piece of information, new piece of music, I try to first understand how I'm interacting with it. So what is the sound in a non-verbal way? Because it's music, right? So what is this kinda? So I'm asking myself this question and I'm tagging the color emotionally while doing that. That's the first step. So makes you feel right. 2, framework. So it's cool, we understand that it's a cool sound, but where is it coming from? So first we are gonna be in C major scale. I know I surprised you, but it's a great scale. It's a good sounding scale. Now if we take the scale and just play the degrees of C major scale, the 7th degree, B, would be a B diminished. So I'm gonna use the sound, I'm gonna alter it, I'm gonna play B diminished 7. So I'm not doing half diminished like it's supposed to be in the scale, I'm doing fully diminished. I'm doing all minor thirds, very symmetrical chord. Of course on piano it's a little easier. When we're playing it on guitar, this is the first shape that I want you guys to check out. Now, maybe you know this shape, but it's important to really understand what's going on here because we're gonna do a few cool things. So even if you know it so far, wait. So we wanna sing it. We wanna understand and feel the tension. Si, let's sing it in order. So, si, re, fa, la, mon. That's the diminished. If you like this kind of content and want to see more of this stuff, one of the best ways to support this channel is by Patreon, because again, it's only me doing all this stuff. So thank you so much for the support. I really appreciate it. We're playing it here in this manner because playing that fingering is really a lot. Not convenient, especially if you do it low here. It's almost impossible. Alright, so this is coming from the 7th degree of the scale. So far so good. We have one fingering that goes like this, 2, 3, 1, 3. This is the diminished. The cool thing about diminished is it's a symmetrical chord. So in that sense, the shape stays exactly the same in minor thirds part, which is super important, and that's gonna be very important also for jazz. We'll talk about it not right now, but in context of bebop scale and dominance, it's extremely important. We'll talk about it. For now, we know that we have this chord that we can shift in minor thirds. Sounds great. The same thing, we can take it from the 4th string. So we can play this F diminished, which is basically a B diminished inversion. Because again, this chord, this chord, this chord, all these chords are the same notes. So it's the same, si, re, fa, la, mon, just arranged differently. There's a PDF with all these shapes, with the fingerings for all these. If that's helpful, check it out here for the Patreon. Thank you. Etc, etc. So I'm just kind of shifting the direction of those 4 notes. So far, so good. So we have this shape that we can move. We have this shape that we can move again in minor thirds. 3. This is where things starting to get interesting for me. So cool. Now, how do we use this? All right, so when we have a 7 chord, for example, let's say we have the chord C7. We're not in the key of C anymore. We just have a chord C7. But I actually want to add some tension to it. So I can actually change the bass instead of C to C sharp what a miracle it is. Instead of C sharp, I have a C sharp diminished. So I'm playing a C7, but I'm not playing the bass correctly, or I would say I'm playing the flat 9 in the bass, so I'm getting this diminished sound. Again, in jazz context we call it flat 9. It depends on how you're hearing it exactly, because this chord can be C7, 5 of F, for example, the 5th degree of F. Now if I'm hearing this chord, the C sharp diminished, it could function as a secondary dominant of D minor. So it can actually function as the 7th degree of the 6th. Why? F, E, D. So D minor is the 6th degree of F major. And therefore, C sharp 7 is C sharp diminished 7 is basically the 7th degree of D minor. So that chord leads us to that chord, the 6th. So it's sort of like playing an A7 in that sense. I'm playing an A7 in the context of F, so this is F. A7 is secondary dominant, this is the 5 of 6, leading us to the D minor. So what I'm saying here is basically that we can utilize this chord as a diminished, as a 7th of a chord, and therefore basically changing keys or changing tonalities using this chord. We can go anywhere, which is really cool. This is a lot of things that a lot of the romantic composers did, to name a few: Beethoven, Mozart, Chopin, Liszt, Wagner. Wagner is a little bit pushing romanticism, but you understand what I'm saying. This is a very, very strong device in music. So I think starting to work on the shapes and starting to just even explore it is super, super helpful. 4. We can also add a diminished as a little passing chord. So example, if we have the chord G7 here, and I have this chord G7 here. So this is G7 root position, and this is G7 third inversion. The point is that I have this note on top, Sol, Sol, or Si, right? And I want to play a line that goes like, so how do I do that? Maybe, so I'm just connecting those two chords, the same chord, right? G7, those couple of shapes with a passing diminished chord. It's gonna work quite a few times, check it out. Or vice versa. So the diminished is also kind of like a filler in a way. You can play C major, a little diminished, C major first inversion, just triads. See how cool this sounds. So this is being used a lot in classical music, because by doing this, you're kind of establishing the tonality in 3 chords. You're basically playing the 1 chord, the tonic if you're indeed in C, the 7th degree first inversion, and then 1 again first inversion. So you're kind of like telling us, hey guys, we're here. So this chord gives a lot of color, but also the functionality of that diminished chord is a dominant chord. So it gives us this color of tension and gravity toward the tonic, toward the 1. 1, 7 first inversion, 1 first inversion. 5. Cool. So you know the shapes now. You have the 5th string shape, you have the 4th string shape, and I can give you also this shape here from the 6th string. But except the shapes, what happens if you want to play a line? So I'm going to show you 2 fingerings that I use a lot, and I think they're really great. This is basically arpeggiating this shape. So there are quite a few options to finger these diminished chords. This is a legit one that if I'm starting from this direction, I would probably use. So check this out. And again, I'm thinking B diminished. Minor third, minor third, minor third, minor third. Just all minor third. And I'm also aware of the note. Si, re, fa, la, mol, si, re, fa, la, mol, si. You can say it with letters. B, D, F, A flat, B, D, F, A flat, B. As long as you're aware of the sound and color that you're hearing and what you're playing, there's no problem. So let's do it really slow. one finger that works really well. Another one that also works really well is kind of like all across 2 notes per string. So this is just literally the same shape moved around. And sometimes with the 2 notes per string shape, we could play it also on the faster side of things if we wanted to. It's also important to see the notes here as well. So I'm trying to be aware of the Si, La, Fa, La, Si, La, Fa, La, Si, La, Fa, La. You can keep going if you want. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this was cool and interesting. I'm super curious of what you come up with in terms of how to incorporate this with your music. So if you do something cool, please drop a comment with a link to a Dropbox or anything, and I'll check it out. So do it. Make music. Go. See you guys soon. Peace.